Good morning from the campus of the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama. This is Sports Talk. I'm Dr. Arthur Ogden, and I serve as the moderator for Sports Talk. And each week, the faculty and members of the staff grapple with current issues having to do with sport. This is a production of the United States Sports Academy and its Department of Communications. And this morning's panel consists of Dr. Steve Butler, who is our Dean of Academic Affairs, and Dr. Brett Simmermacher, who's our Chair of Sports Coaching. I selected these two gentlemen today because we're going to deal with the quandary that Major League Baseball seems to find itself in determining who's going to get the home team advantage, or some people call it the seventh game advantage in the World Series. And as the All-Star Game was played last night, and since the All-Star Game determines who gets the advantage, the pennant winner from the American League this year has the home team advantage. And it's not ironic either. The American League has been racking up several wins. They've won 3 straight, and how many did you say out of the last 15?
15 of the last 19.
15 of the last 19, the American League has won. A little bit of a background. In 2003, Major League Baseball used its All-Star Game, which comes in the midseason, to determine the home team advantage for the World Series. Now, this was a reaction to the lackluster performance by Major League Baseball overall and the 2002 tie in the All-Star Game. And that did nothing to rekindle fan interest, because at that time, fan interest was beginning to wane. It was determined by the owners and the league officials that the All-Star Game would now matter. And indeed, it has mattered. The victorious team in the All-Star Game, American League or the National League, will determine which team in the World Series has that 7th game advantage. So, we're going to talk to our campus's 2 baseball experts. I know of nobody who's a more avid fan or has more extraneous facts, numbers, and analytics in his head about baseball than my good friend Dean Steve Butler. He can quote you numbers like, I think maybe make them up sometimes, but he knows more numbers. So there really seems to be only one question, Steve. Just what do you think should be the determining factor for the home team in the World Series?
Well, if it was up to me, I would choose the winner of the most games during interleague play during the season. There's several games each season when the National League plays against the American League. And since they moved Houston to the American League a couple of years ago, there's always at least one. There's 15 teams in each league, so there's always at least one interleague series going on nearly every day. So that would be my choice. I think, Brett and I talked about this earlier. I think the idea of having the winner of the All-Star Game is not a bad idea, but I think it's mismatched with the idea of the fans picking the players. If you want to have the fans pick the players and say it's a fans game and it's only an exhibition, so having the fans pick the players, that's okay. But if the game is going to matter, I think we have to come up with a different way of picking the players. Let the coaches pick them, let the players pick them. I think having the fans pick the players is okay, and I think having the All-Star Game decide home field advantage in the World Series is okay, but I think together it's not okay.
By analogy, I want to get to Dr. Simmermacher in a second. By the way, Dr. Simmermacher was a college baseball coach for some time. He also played for Eddie Sankey over at University of South Alabama. But I was thinking about this. The NFL had this problem with the Pro Bowl, and they always had the conference versus the conference. I think it was this past year. What they did was they selected 2 NFL alums as coaches, and they had a draft. Right. Wonder what that would do to Major League Baseball. Now, I realize Major League Baseball is difficult to change. I mean, they're as stodgy as can be. But, Brett, what do you think that would do if they did something like that? They took, say, the previous year's managers the previous year's managers who won the World Series, and they had a draft of the potential candidates drawn from maybe the fan select and so forth. I wonder how that would work.
I just still think it's a bad idea to use the All-Star Game. Just as I feel like the same way with the Pro Bowl. I think that baseball should mirror football, the NFL, and basketball. It should be the best record throughout the course of the season. You know, the interleague thing makes sense. They didn't used to do that. That came into inception in what year? Maybe 3 years ago.
And the interleague play is one of the reasons why the game started to take on a lackluster performance. And, you know, when you and I were kids, the only time they played against each other was the All-Star Game in the World Series. Right. So guys like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Roberto Clemente, those guys, the All-Star Game meant something. You know, in I guess it was '76, Pete Rose pretty much ended Ray Fosse's career, and they were good friends. You know, Ray Fosse ate dinner at Pete Rose's house the night before because the game was in Cincinnati, and then Pete Rose took him out. I think it was the 14th or 12th inning anyway to score the winning run. He just took him out home plate and took a lot of criticism for that. But you know, he basically said, if we're not going to try to win, why do we even play the game? Right. So you know that was part of it. One of the interesting things, and I agree. I agree with you. I think the best record would be a good way to do it as well. The counter argument to that is that the schedules aren't even, but that's okay. They're not even in the NBA either because the Western Conference is. Yeah,
that depends on the strength of different conference divisions.
Right. But you know, I saw an interesting thing on Sports Center this morning that since they've done this was the 12th time that they've used this, yesterday was the 13th, but in the previous 12, it would have only changed 2 of the 12 if the team with the best record had gotten home field advantage. Another great stat I saw in one of these articles that we read to prepare for this was that since 2003, when they instituted this, there's actually been more games played in the other team's ballpark than there has. Because with the 2-3-2, if you're the home team and you win the series in 5, you've actually played 3 games at the losing team's field and only 2 at your home field. And over those 12-year period before yesterday, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen this year, but there's actually been more games played in the home park of the loser of the All-Star Game than there has in the winner, which is pretty fascinating.
Another interesting thing that I read too, with the way it is with fans choosing the players, you know, it becomes a popularity contest. What did they say? The Royals at one time had 8 guys in the starting lineup. And you could realistically, if you continue it that way, have a person that's hitting 242, hitting 2 times, 3 times throughout the course of the All-Star Game.
I went to an Atlanta Braves game back in the mid-'90s, and at about 8 places in the stadium, they had these things set up, and it was a block of wood with some long, very thin nails. And you could take a stack of ballots and push them down in this thing, and it punched out the 8 Braves players. I mean, it's a lot easier today with technology, but I mean, they've been doing that ballot stuffing for forever. I mean, this was about as basic as you can get. A hunk of wood with skinny nails in it, and you just push the ballot down, and it punched out all the Atlanta Braves. So you can do like 100 at a time.
They learned that from Chicago politics, I guess, Mayor Daley. I don't know which direction we're going to go. You guys have made a couple of really good suggestions. I do know that concurrently to this, the NBA, Adam Silver announced today that the selection for the playoffs and the seeding for the playoffs in the NBA next year is going to be different because it's not just going to be who automatically wins their division gets a higher seed. So, and I don't know if this is the case when we have in Major League Baseball at all. They just don't, they don't do it that way. And they'll have, where they go, they go a 3-game series, a 5-game series, and then a 7-game series, or is everything a 7-game series now?
You're talking about baseball?
Baseball.
First one's a 1-game series.
1-game series.
2 wild cards, and then they go 7-7, right?
Right.
Well, the interesting thing, back to Brett's point about team with the best record, that's the way they do the first 3 rounds.
Right.
The 2 wild cards play at the team with the best record, Then they call it the divisional series.
Mhm.
The home team is the team with the best record. Then they call it the league championship series.
Right.
The home team is the team with the best record. Why not just follow it up in the World Series?
Exactly.
And I know what you're saying about the NBA. In the past, the top 3 seeds were the division winners.
Yeah.
And you could be the 2 seed and have 15 more losses than the 4 seed.
Right, and this year's Eastern Division was so, I mean, Eastern Conference, whatever, was so far inferior to the West. And you actually had teams in the East that if they'd been in the West with a record, they never would have made it.
Right.
So this is, part of the thing.
One thing, in hockey, they reseed after each round.
Is that right? I did not know.
So you have, if you have if the 8 seed upsets the 1 seed, then they move things around so that the high seed always plays the low seed.
They shuffle it again. Wow, that's interesting. Well, I know, Brett, that you're interested in some analytics. Give us some analytics to back up your position. You've got all kinds of numbers.
Well, the bottom line is it's broken and it needs to be fixed.
Right.
Home field advantage in the playoff series or in the World Series especially is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
It is a huge deal.
And baseball is the only sport where the rules actually favor the home team.
Exactly.
Because you get to bat last.
You get to bat last.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You're on the field. Your pitcher gets a field first. With the crowd, there's so many variables.
Most ballparks you go to, if you ever notice this, a lot of people don't notice these little nuances. But the bullpens, the home team bullpen is usually facing the same direction as the actual pitcher's mound at home plate, and the visiting team's bullpen is usually like sideways. So the pitcher throwing in the bullpen is throwing the same, wind and everything else the same direction. But yeah, you're right. It's the home field in baseball by rule is more.
Well, let me ask you about another thing that's always fascinated me. The AL has a designated hitter, and they can use a designated hitter in the World Series, right?
They can use it when they're
in the
American League ballpark.
But when they
So
go to the
there's another built-in advantage.
Right.
That's just very, very strange. I think that is very strange. That fodder for another discussion.
Well, and it becomes a disadvantage in the National League part because most American League teams won't carry as many pitchers because they don't have to pinch hit, because of the DH and stuff. So
Right.
the teams are built differently, which even adds to the home field advantage.
Another thing
Exactly.
that I read, Chase Utley,
Yeah.
Philadelphia Phillies, he made a great point. We don't play in American League ballparks all year long. They don't play in National League ballparks all year long. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
The ball travels differently in the outfield. It takes funny hops on the infield. There's a lot of things that go into play analytically in baseball that create a lot of these numbers, and it has to be fixed.
And they're part of it. In other words, it's institutionalized now
Right.
with the designated hitter and the structure of the team with pitchers and so forth. So what's our solution? Where are we going to go? I know you like it just the best record. So let's suppose the Pirates win the National League pennant. Would that be?
Yeah.
And Oakland wins the.
That's not going to happen, by the way.
Well, Billy Bean would disagree. Let's suppose they win the American League,
Yes.
right? Okay. And let's suppose that Oakland has 98 and 42 record, which would be pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not 162 games. Let's say 98 and 64.
Okay, 98 and 64, as opposed to Pittsburgh having 72 and 88 or whatever. My math isn't that good. But they've got a higher batting average. They've got more home run hitters. Their pitchers have a phenomenal ERA, and yet their record is not as good as Oakland's record. Is it possible that we run into the same thing there that we run into with the NBA and the quality of ball in one league or the other, what do they call it, the league or the conference? Is inferior to the other? I mean, isn't that problematic? Because what we're saying is that Oakland, in this instance, because they had a better record, would have the home field advantage.
That's the most common argument against picking the team with the best record. But you know what? When you take a look at it from, you know, even Major League Baseball was in their ESPN advertisement this year on the radio and on television was saying basically that the winner of this game gets home field in Game 7. They put the focus on Game 7.
Right.
But since they've done this, there's only been 2 Game 7s.
Yeah.
And the home team won one. St. Louis won it in 2011, and the Giants won on the road last year in Kansas City. But so that would be an argument to say it really doesn't matter. But at the same time, since they've been doing this, the team with the home field advantage has won 8 of the 12 World Series. Right. So that would be an argument to say it does matter. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's another horrible decision by Bud Selig, and I think that Rob Manfred is going to wait a couple of years before he starts reversing all of the stupid decisions that Bud Selig made, because he wants to show a little bit of respect for him, and he's not going to come in right away and change a bunch of stuff. He's going to wait a couple of years.
All right, let me shift gears on you guys because it's time for us to bring it to a close. I'm going to put them on the spot now. Who from the AL is going to be in the World Series?
From the American League, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Royals repeating their World Series from last year.
All right. From the NL.
The NL? Oh, boy. I'm going to say the Dodgers.
Not San Fran?
No.
San Fran's won 3 out of the last 5.
They only win in odd years.
Yes.
I mean, they only win in even years. They win in 10, 12, and 14.
The big one.
Yeah, and all the GMs say that but I saw Buster Olney on TV the other night. He asked a bunch of people where they thought Johnny Cueto was going to go, and every single one of them said the Dodgers. So if they can come in, and they've already got Kershaw and Greinke,
Right.
and we've seen many times you can't, for 162 games you can't do it, but in short series like that with 2 stud pitchers, that sometimes is enough.
There you go.
Mean, the Dodgers with Koufax and Drysdale.
So who's going to win the World Series? Brett?
I'm going to go with the Dodgers.
You're going with the Dodgers.
I'm going with the Pirates.
Pirates. Okay. Figured you would. Well, there you have it, folks, from the experts on baseball at the United States Sports Academy. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week. I take that back. We will not be back again next week at this time. It will be Thursday next week. We have a scheduling conflict, so we will be going next Thursday at 10:30, and we at 11:30. Excuse me. We hope you tune in then. Thank you for your your emails and all of your Twitter feeds and so forth, and send us your suggestions at sportstalk@ussa.edu. Thank you so very much, and have a great day in sport.